Welcome to the Roniel and DaRon podcast show. I'm Roniel.
I'm DaRon.
Man, it's been a wonderful week, and I always gotta ask you with my favorite line: what movie have you seen of the week? What is your movie of the week?
Okay,
Have you even seen it?
so I actually have done quite a few things since last week we talked. I watched the Squid Game, the whole season.
So I have not actually watched it yet, but I've heard so much chatter, and I wasn't sure because it looks stupid.
It was
Is it actually good?
it's okay. It's phenomenal, but keep in mind, I mean, I lived in that area. I understand that a lot of the different cultures. It was a beautiful indictment on society, and I don't know that everyone picked up on that. It was thing after thing after, oh, it was so gorgeous, and they wrapped in like so the United States was founded by a lot of fundamentalist fanatical nuts that Europe kicked out religious wise. Europe kicked them out. That is important. It's not so much that they left, of their own accord to find freedom. They were actually kicked out because they were so violent, nutty, and oftentimes just absolutely crazy and would not adhere to anyone's rules and laws. So we have imported a lot of that to Korea. As far as the Christian religion is concerned, the versions of Christianity that you see in Korea are they're not good. We'll just leave it at that. And they have that component. They bring that component into the picture actually for a small portion of it. But they discuss poverty. They discuss terminal illnesses. I mean, it is so beautiful, absolutely beautiful. If what you're interested in is something that's fun, it covers that. If what you're interested in is something that's edgy, it's got that. Or if you're interested in something that's cerebral, that is very, very, very much there, while still providing. I think it's one of those shows. Part of the reason why it's so popular is it's got something for everyone embedded into the very fabric of it. I thought it was well done.
So it's not a gory like Saw movie like series or nothing,
No,
right?
I don't like Saw. It's nothing. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't. I don't like that stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure because that's when I looked at like this looks like another bull crap Saw movie that I don't want to do or series. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to see it.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that and that you brought that up because there is a stark difference between the two. Saw was focused around these different contraptions, all this other craziness, and it was really focused on how can we take mostly medieval. Most of the stuff you see in Saw is medieval and Dark Ages stuff, real stuff, like many of the contraptions and things of that nature, real torture devices, etc., etc. But it's not about that, and they have a funny twist because you take the innocence of a child game, or seemingly innocence of a child game, and you turn it into a violent affair. But the violence isn't for naught. All of that again it's all social commentary. It is beautiful, very well done, incredibly well
So,
done.
so I wanted to that is a good thing. So I'm gonna definitely take a look on that. So would you give that from a range from 1 to 10? What would you give that movie? I mean that series.
I'd
10
say
being the best, one
it,
being the least.
it's probably an 8.5, maybe even toward a 9. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Awesome.
So
Well,
have you ever seen The Human Condition?
no. Is that a
Okay,
movie on Netflix?
they have the
Ah,
DVDs. It's very old Japanese movie. It was very
okay.
good.
Only thing I seen with a human was a human centipede. I mean, I don't want to see that ever again. So, yeah, that's the closest you're gonna get to anything human wise in the name of the title. Um, but no, I'm gonna look that up and see what's going on with that one. I had the pleasure of seeing James Bond.
Oh,
Uh,
was it
you
good?
know, oh man, it was phenomenal. I'm sorry that it was the last of what's the name? I forgot the main actor. Is his name Craig? Or
Yeah, yeah, I know
I
who
think
you're
it
talking
is.
about.
Yeah, it's his last movie. He didn't want to do it anymore. But I loved I love James Bond movies, but I really liked it his. I think he brought a very interesting perspective from that character to that character of James Bond. I also seen in some of it how racist it can be, especially if you think about the last, like the further back in the day James Bond. And there were kind of some racism there, some harassment there, some
Yeah.
it was a whole bunch of stuff. So I had the pleasure of actually seeing that. That was really good. If you guys haven't seen it already, please go check it out. It is a really, really good movie. I did not like the villain in there was okay. Uh, but it was the same guy that played Mr. Robot. So he was better in Mr. Robot than he was in that one, but it was still cool overall. And I also seen the Dave Chappelle show, the closer.
Yes.
Um,
Okay, please. I saw that too.
it was, in my opinion, it was hilarious. There was a lot of things in there that I agree with. There's some things I think he shouldn't have said, but as well, he was just giving his realistic opinion about it. And I think everybody took a little bit out of context because he was speaking of different things that we see that I have issues with, that the world have issues with, that people won't say. I think a lot of people are scared to say it because of this whole cancel culture, but it needs to be said. And I think people are like, especially the community, are a little sensitive about these things and these issues that they don't really realize. I do want to say, just so
Please.
nobody takes this out of context, that we are not saying we have anything against the gay community or anything
Definitely.
like that. I think everybody should be treated equally, no matter what race or no matter whether you're trans, whatever. It doesn't matter. We have no, we don't exclude anything. We have nothing against anybody. We're just giving our opinion on how we felt about the show and etc. So other than that, I just want to make sure I let everybody know. But one thing I have to say that I really resonated with that I think people missed. I don't know if you really thought about that. You think about how many people complain about how we can't get anything done as a, minorities or as a group, but the gay community or LGBTQ community has successfully been able to do whatever they needed to do successfully. Why? As a unit. All over the world, there's millions and billions of people in this community, and they stick together. And they're able to get things passed and things worked around, and we're not. And that's a shame. And that's something that he mentioned that I caught on, that I said that people need to really start looking at that. We're killing each other and complaining about what we can't get done or about things happening to us, but we're not even coming together. So that was something that really resonated.
Okay, I agree with you. And he had a lot of very valid points, and that was actually one of the big ones to me. And that's something I know I've said over and over and over again, many different times. If you look at any given issue, so homosexuals, both male and female, they became very successful in fighting for their cause, really starting strongly in the 80s and 90s, right? And made a lot of progress and really picking up traction in 90s, early 2000s, and getting where they needed to be, which, as he pointed out, was a much smaller journey than, for example, blacks earning, well, first of all, not being enslaved, and then secondly, earning equal rights and the right to vote. I mean, the list goes on and on. And it was interesting because he mentioned, for example, Susan B. Anthony. And he got that slightly wrong because the early women's suffrage movement actually included the abolitionist movement. The two were joined together at the hip. And what wound up happening was the women didn't leave enslaved Africans and blacks in the dust. The abolitionist movement actually left the women in the dust and excluded them. So the women said, well, if you're going to exclude us, we're going to exclude you. Now, it was wrong of them to exclude women who were former slaves, women who were black. That was wrong, but his reading of history was mildly off because it was the abolitionist movement that separated first. Because what they went through and said was, look, you're going to get one of two things, and you've got to pick. Either one, women's suffrage, or two, abolition. But you're not getting both simultaneously. U.S. politicians have been for a very long time big on slow and steady progress. And I will give the United States that especially. We do make progress. It is slow, but it is steady in general.
Yeah.
And you can watch that march throughout the history of our timeline. But I really liked a lot of what he said. It's unfortunate because a lot of the commentary that I saw that was against his show and against him, because, for example, there was that woman, and I'm not going to say trans woman, who broke into a Netflix meeting she wasn't invited to, started speaking up and attacking them for having that particular show and saying all this stuff. And I believe she got fired, and rightfully so, from the standpoint of how she went about it wasn't appropriate. But importantly, I don't think, and this is what I got from most of the commentary, I don't think people actually gave him a fair chance. Because a lot of people got to the point where he defended J.K. Rowling and where he said, I'm on Team TERF, and then they stopped if they were a member of the LGBTQIA community. So they immediately stopped and said, this show is no good. But if they had gone just 2 minutes more, the most heartbreaking story. Yes. And that was his final, and that was, I think it was roughly 20 minutes. And it was a fantastic story about a woman. Again, I'm not going to say trans woman. I'm just going to say woman, just for simplicity, named Daphne, who was arguably one of his biggest fans and a huge supporter of his, went to all his shows. And like he explained, I'm not going to steal his thunder. I highly encourage, if you do nothing else, at least watch the last 20 minutes of that show. Especially if you're against him and you think he's transphobic. Because this goes back to something we talked about actually several times now, and the unwillingness of many people to sit down and really communicate and have a conversation. Someone says something we don't like, and this is what he was talking about when he was talking about fragility. And I'm not saying he was right or wrong, I'm just saying this is what he was talking about. That unwillingness to sit down and listen to why someone's saying or thinking something. Because they could have a perfectly valid reason that you aren't seeing because you can't see it from your perspective. And you at least need to give them that chance. I mean, in his discussion of Daphne and the fact that she got, despite being a trans woman, so a member of the trans community, she was horribly, viciously attacked for defending him and commits suicide 6 days later. So the community killed its own member because its member dared to speak up on behalf of him. And that's a real travesty. And we see that, and this is exactly what you're talking about here. We see that in Native American movements. We see that in different minority group movements all the time. You and I have talked, I mentioned once before, one of the reasons why I have had great issues with the Black Lives Matter movement is in 2015, they shut out the Native American Lives Matter movement. And horribly so. Absolutely terribly so. And it wasn't until about 2017 that they decided, oh, well, we'll be stronger if we join together. But you could see on CNN, on a whole bunch of news channels, you could see on YouTube and people's vlogs and Instagram and elsewhere where people were sitting there actively attacking the Native American Lives Matter 2 movement. It was, by the way, Native Lives Matter 2. They included the 2, but people were like, oh, well, you're stealing our song. Oh, it's not your time. And all of this other stuff. The homosexual community, both male and female, did a fantastic job joining forces together, just like what you were talking about. Joining forces together and successfully knocking down huge doors. Was it pleasant? No. Did it take them a good long time? Yes. And when the bisexual, transgender, transsexual, and queer community all then joined into that realm, that was a wise decision on their part. But the thing I fear is I don't think those additions took the lessons that the homosexual community provided, took that template. I don't think they've done that yet, because they eat their own. They eat their own. If you say something they don't agree with,
because
yeah,
to me, it's to me when you, and like I said, I'm just being honest. I feel like if I'm doing something that you don't approve of, why do I care about your approval in the first place? But if I care about your approval, then that means that in some way I feel the shame of something that I did or something I don't agree with what I'm doing. And that's what I feel like. Obviously, they don't agree with something if you're actually bothered by anything that somebody says. It's their vision of it, it's their opinion. It does not matter, what they say, as long as they're not really truly being disrespectful to you in general. But you know what I'm saying? Like everybody, you chose to be that way. Now, there are people who are born this way, but a lot of people were chosen to go this route. And there's nothing wrong with your decision. However, it comes with consequences. Every choice you make, it got a consequence. The same way, if I decide to go out here and do something bad, somebody else can do something bad to me as well. So, or I go to jail. So my thing with this whole narrative is that, if we're going to get together and try to make a change, we all have to come together and accept that and accept other people's opinions as well. As a group, everybody has their own perspective of how they see things. And in order for us to unify each other, we all have to come together and listen to each other, listen to some of the problems so we can help and, overcome some of these problems. And not, as we were saying before, as you noticed from Highland, that everybody wants to be the chief, but not enough Indians. Like, everybody can't speak at the same time.
Right.
Everybody has to learn to listen to each other. And just because I don't agree with something doesn't mean we can't meet in the middle.
Right.
I don't have to agree with everything you say, and you don't have to agree with everything I say, but we have to come to a common agreement or a ground. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way we overcome it. But we're never going to do that. There are always going to be some issues, and they're not going to like it. If you say anything wrong about the gay community, something that you think that's not right, they don't give two craps. They're mad. They don't want to hear anything you said. You don't agree with us. No, that doesn't mean anything. You're not freaking listening to the problem.
Right.
Listen.
Right.
Like, stop thinking you know everything. Stop thinking that if somebody's attacking you, nobody's attacking you. There are some people attacking you, but not everybody's out to get you. People are just saying what, how they feel. And if you want to be better or overcome some of the things or want to, get us to understand, you have to listen to what our problems are. So we can understand and have a conversation, understand from your perspective and ours.
Right. That's exactly right. We have to have that conversation. And we can't have a conversation if you're covering your ears and going la la la. We can't have that conversation if you're screaming. This needs to be whenever you come across that kind of thing, you need to just start at it with two perspectives. Number one, they're ignorant of my struggle, etc., etc. And number two, this is an opportunity for me, because I'm likely ignorant of their struggle, to learn a little bit about them and for them to learn a little bit about me. And that's what I saw when I saw the whole thing, and too many people just turned it off when he defended Rawlings. Too many people. And when he said Team Turf, I didn't even know what turf was. TERF apparently is a thing. I didn't even know what that was, because quite frankly, I am egalitarian. So to me, I'm sitting there, I'm egalitarian and socially a libertarian. What you choose to do in the comfort of your own home doesn't impact me. So long as it is with consenting adults, I don't care. What you do outside of the comfort of your own home, so long as it's not something that actually impacts me, and I don't mean it offends my sensibilities, If, for example, you're smoking, I have asthma. I'm allergic to cigarette smoke because I'm actually allergic to caffeine and nicotine. So I'm going to have a problem with that. First of all, you're polluting my air. Secondly, I have asthma. Third, I have allergies. So I have a problem with that. But generally, whatever you do, as long as it's not actually hurting someone, I don't care. You want to run around naked for all I care? I don't care. That actually doesn't bother me. But the reason why it doesn't bother me is number one, all of our ancestors were running around naked.
Yeah. I mean, long as my kids are not seeing that shit, I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with that.
But so
You
long as
know,
you're not being all creepy and,
yeah. So this concludes our episode. I'm Roniel.
I am DaRon.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and also hit that bell down at the bottom somewhere. I don't know where that bell would be at, but hit that bell down at the bottom and you can always stay alert to all our new episodes. We also pretty soon will be in all different platforms for podcasting. So if you can't actually see the videos, you can listen to our podcast and stream them as well. So to the next time.
Have fun.
Later.